Up until that point, my meaning and purpose was to get sober. My meaning and purpose was to become financially successful. I achieved both of those things, and there was nothing, it was kind of like, okay, now what? This feeling of emptiness, being alone, feeling disconnected, this God-sized hole it's been referred to, being disconnected spiritually, how materialistic our culture has become, where we worship brands, brand names, looking good, even success. I'm not against having nice things, but to make money your God. This Instagram lifestyle of being, these pictures of people being on these yachts. But to me, that reflects this soul sickness. I'm not going to get into the darkness of my addiction right now and talk about the emptiness and the loneliness of that. Actually, I'm going to talk about this soul sickness while being sober. And that just putting down the drink, putting down the drug, that alone will not cure soul sickness. And let me give you an example. So I remember I had about 6-7 years of sobriety. I was living in California, doing real well financially. My life on the outside looked great. I had complete freedom, lived on the beach, bachelor, had money, had resources. And I remember taking all these trips, most of which was by myself because my other friends my age had a wife and kids and had a family, had responsibilities. And then the ones that were bachelors, they couldn't get away from their work. Even though they were the boss, they owned their own businesses, they couldn't find time to join me on a trip. And I thought, well, isn't this a hell of a thing? In my mind, I've lined everything up thanks to sobriety. I now have this beautiful life. I didn't have a family to go do it with. I didn't have a partner to go do it with, to travel around with. There was one moment in particular that stood out. I went to Miami for the very first time in my life during this period. And I was staying in this nice hotel, Fontainebleau, and I'm out on the balcony in this suite. And I'm right on the ocean. I'm looking at the ocean. There's sunset. And I just remember thinking, my first thought was like, oh my, this is beautiful. And this is amazing. Look at me. Look at this trip that I'm on. My second thought was, this don't feel nearly as good as I thought it would. I mean, like, really this thought of, like, what's the point in doing this, having this, if you have no one standing next to you to enjoy this with? This isn't some poor me story about, how I got successful. And Carl Jung talks about the soul sickness as not having a sense of meaning or purpose. And up until that point, my meaning and purpose was to get sober. My meaning and purpose was to become financially successful. I achieved both of those things, and it was kind of like, okay, now what? I'm feeling this soul sickness, this loss, this emptiness, because I didn't aim high enough. I didn't aim high enough spiritually. Even though I was doing some service work at the time, I was helping other men get sober, and I was participating. I was in AA at the time and very active there, secretary of meetings, chair of meetings. And at the time, I would have thought that would have been sufficient. And in fact, I mean, I was sober. I had accomplished the goal of getting sober. But what I'm here to say is it wasn't enough. I mean, it's a great first step, but once I got there, I hadn't adjusted my goal to be something much, much higher spiritually. I mean, maybe you can relate this God-sized hole, this emptiness, this soul sickness. In America, in modern society, we're taught, like, take some drugs, feel better, drink some alcohol, feel better, have a bunch of sexual escapades, and all of that is fleeting pleasure. It's not a sustained true joy and happiness and contentment. Society now, the religion is buy stuff. Buy stuff, you'll feel better, you'll look better. And then when that wears off, just buy more stuff and just keep buying stuff, and you'll stay happy. But that don't work. That just don't work. I think we all know that. It feels good in the moment. I mean, we're being lied to. We're being sold that, like, that's the American dream. We're not really being told that that's not going to cut it. We're not being told that even if you accomplish all those things of the cash and prizes, you're still going to be feeling lost. You're still going to be feeling empty. But AA definitely helped shape my way of connecting sobriety with spirituality. So thank you, AA, for that. Just a little side note about AA and why I'm not so active in it anymore. Different people, places, and things get us to where we needed to be, but sometimes we need something different to get further, or to get to the next destination, if you will. And for me, man, I was on a roll and I screwed that up. AA don't work, F you. I mean, it worked quite well for me. By all means, try out AA. Even when I was in AA, though, I was encouraged to layer and integrate other things like psychotherapy. In AA, they're not really gonna address your traumas. So if a lot of us in recovery have traumas, AA is the wrong tool for that. You know, so for some of us, the plant medicines. Okay, so how do we fill this God-sized hole if recovery alone doesn't do that, doesn't do the trick? I want to make the distinction between sobriety and recovery. Sobriety is just stopping the drugs, stopping the alcohol, whatever the thing is that's taking you to your knees. Recovery is, how do we address this soul sickness, this emptiness, this loneliness, this lack or loss of meaning and purpose and connection? Got real lucky when I was starting to get sober out in Los Angeles, and I found this group of guys they call it the Bravo group. It wasn't even an AA meeting, it was a men's luncheon. That completely changed my life. Those men taught me that getting sober and recovery could be about like a lot more than just getting sober, and connecting to God for that matter. Those men taught me that there's exhilaration and waking up every day, knowing that I'm getting closer and closer to becoming this man that I've always wanted to be. You know, this son, this friend, colleague, entrepreneur, all the different roles that we play. This bleeds through all of those things, and people respond. It's amazing that once you start, that light comes on in you, how the world responds to that. It's incredible. I'm here to tell you that kind of thing is the thing that fills that God-sized hole. What's infused and integrated and assumed in that is a connection to your higher power, the spiritual life. Frankly, however you think about God or those things is up to you. That's what's nice about AA that I liked, is I was able to choose or discover who my higher power was, or what. For me, it ain't even a who. That's cool if yours is a who. Mine isn't even really a... Mine's just a relation. I just have a relationship with something. I don't know what it is, and that's where it starts and stops for me. So I was just talking about this group of men, the Bravo group, slowly but surely becoming a better man, becoming more whole, becoming more integrated, using recovery to do those things. So Carl Jung would say this kind of thing is individuation. You know, becoming more whole, more complete, more integrated. So how else can we find meaning and purpose? Nature. Connect with nature. We are nature. We need... I'll just speak for myself. I need to get out in the sun more. I need to get more fresh air. I need my feet to touch the earth. That's not woo-woo goofy stuff. That's like ancient, primal, that's human being stuff. That's only in recent times have we put... Basically, we're in a house that we're not touching the ground. We're in a car with rubber tires not touching the earth. We're in an office or wherever we work, we're not touching the actual earth. This isn't marketed because you can't really make any money. These corporations can't make any money off of, or even the medical community. I won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but a lot of how they measure their success in that industry, they don't really have any other way of showing that they're caring for their patient other than they came in, I made this diagnosis, and I wrote this script. It isn't bracketed as spiritual practices, but there's nothing more spiritual I can think of almost than going out into nature. We are nature. We're getting back to source. If any of these things have worked for you, I'd love to hear about your stories in the comments. For instance, if you recently started getting out into nature, you started to pray daily, or you started to meditate, or recently you found a supportive group, community, I'd love to hear about that. Our community we need to share these things with each other. If you're feeling lost, alone, like lack of purpose and meaning, you're feeling like you relate to this idea about a soul sickness, and you're trying to get sober, I got good news for you. You don't have to wait for a year of sobriety to start feeling good. You can, like today, start getting outside, start walking, getting some sun. You can start praying and meditating today. Even if you do it wrong, like just start doing it. It all works like right away. It all starts making you feel better and connected right away.